Welcome to the Story Tinker podcast, a place for in-depth analysis of stories, mainly from Webtoon. Co-hosted by sharp, witty, and dare I say, thirsty fans, we dive deep in every episode, analyzing character struggles, relationship development, and of course, theories. We also interview people working in creative industries. You can follow the Story Tinker on YouTube, podcast platforms, and social media. For bonus content, sneak peeks, and more, you can support the Story Tinker on Patreon. We're really appreciative of your likes, subscribes, follows, comments, and ratings on all platforms. Thanks for listening to the Story Tinker, and let's get started. So we're first going to talk about 𝘕𝘫𝘺 and Fringilla and Cintra and that little bit. So last we left off with 𝘕𝘫𝘺 was he was on the boat where the Sandpiper placed him heading to Cintra, and we see him now having a nightmare, which is another humanizing element. And he's having a nightmare actually about Ciri, which is funny because she is the one who has nightmares about him and she's terrified of him, but so is he apparently.
I mean, she did destroy an apparently indestructible structure with just a scream. So understandable, I guess.
Oh, I just thought of a parallel between, we talked about this episode 1 about the 𝘸𝘰𝘰𝘬𝑛 and how they had this whole discussion about, oh, you're a monster too because you're different and he'll kill you as well. I just realized their power is both in their scream. Okay.
Yeah, that's interesting. No wonder Ciri sympathized with her.
Yeah. Okay, so he wakes up, he has this nightmare, and then we kind of get a glimpse into Cintra. We see that Fringilla is leading Cintra, and she calls Fransesca in to talk about the situation because they're both basically leading Cintra together. And Fringilla is really into the welfare of the elves. She is concerned about, how many of them are arriving, and then there's guards on boats now, fewer, and she really wants the elves to be safe. And she and Fransesca talk about how they like working together. And I know we'll see more of it over the season, but this is a departure for Fringilla because she hasn't been used to being a leader. She's always been kind of bossed around, and she's really loving this kind of like equality and the ownership that she has.
Yeah, I think it's the camaraderie she feels with like being able to create something and be in charge of it, but also like having like what Fransesca says, like having a partner to help, to lean on as well. And like, I don't know, you can tell that their relationship is very genuine. Like they both genuinely respect each other and have a common goal in mind, and they both enjoy being in each other's company. So like they're friends, but they also work together and stuff, which I think is just a really nice thing to show in the series. It's like a friendship between women who are leading people and everything. Like it's just nice.
I like their whole dynamic, and especially they seem like two people who have been really repressed in a lot of ways in the history of the story. And I mean, it's so interesting because obviously their dynamic very much contrasts everything that's been happening with Yennefer this season. But regardless, I mean, it's nice to see that they're not just taking the opportunity they have to be self-serving, but work together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I have a feeling, I mean, we know even from within the season how much Fringilla changes in terms of her ability to stand up for herself. And I have a feeling that this is, completely transformative for her character. So anyway, they decide they want to go down and greet the ships. And, of course they have to because 𝘕𝘫𝘺 is coming. So has to be right now. Not that they know, but for plot purposes. And 𝘕𝘫𝘺 comes, and I was so disappointed with his behavior because I want 𝘕𝘫𝘺 to be the good guy because I have like this unnatural, I like him. And of course, the second he comes back to his home territory, as bedraggled as he is, he just turns into a total jerk and he cuts in line and doesn't respect any of like anyone else's authority. And he's like, who are you? And they're like, I wrote it down, 𝘧𝘪 𝘕𝘫𝘺. I don't know how you pronounce it. But he was like, I am
gotta love that name. Yeah, I was so rooting for him all season because he's had such a turn, he was humbled by being captured and tortured. But once he gets back, he's back to, well, it's what you would expect, you know, him being more entitled, being commander and all that. And then nobody recognized him with his scrappy beard.
Yeah. So actually, but Fringilla does recognize him, and she kind of puts him in this position like, "Ah, I'm glad you're still alive." You know, I didn't know he would make it. And it does, you know, you right away sense what we're going to see throughout the season is a little bit of tension between them. That, you know, who's in charge. But yeah, you know, I'm gonna still hold out for 𝘴𝘰𝘪𝘴. I think that he did have an awakening, and like maybe it'll stick with him. I want him to be a good person in the end. I don't know, it's just my wish. So anyway, now we're going to talk about what happens with Istredd. And the last thing we left off with Istredd is where Geralt portals in. So now we get to see a little bit more of what he's doing before. And he too is trying to help the elves. And he's trying to find alternative routes for them to get into Cintra to help save them, which I am not surprised because Istredd, I thought, was always a nice guy. And he hasn't been involved in, like, not that we know of at least, politics. He's only kind of interested in his monoliths. He's like the scholar, and he, you know, he worked with Nilfgaard only because he wanted to study his monoliths. And so I'm not surprised that he's like being helpful now. Anyway, Geralt portals in and they have this whole conversation. He says Triss sent him, and they talk about monoliths because they're trying to figure out what happened and did Ciri actually topple it and are the monsters going. So they head over there and they have this whole theory that basically historians had theorized that monoliths were scars from the conjunctions, and Istredd is like, oh, they're conduits. And they're speculating that monsters were coming out of that after Ciri toppled it. And they're coming from different spheres. So I don't know if you have any thoughts on this lore or if you were expecting this.
I mean, I think it's so fascinating. It's like, because I'm still trying to wrap my head around it myself, the different spheres, like almost like different dimensions, right? I'm so fascinated to see where that goes. And I'm really so fascinated by Istredd's character, period. Because I remember at the end of the last season, I kept thinking to myself, why, you know, Nilfgaard seems like the big bad. Why is he in Nilfgaard? What does it mean? And it's even more interesting that not only is he there, but one of his roles is he's the person finding the safe passage for the elves.
Yeah, no, like you get a sense of his like first and foremost, he's like a scholar and he really just wants to learn, and he doesn't want to be involved in any sort of political backstabbing, whatever. And that's why he's actually like helping the elves on the down low, because well, not for scholarly reasons, but he also is just like, it's cruel and he wants to help them. So you just see that he is a genuine person who's kind of making the situation work to his benefit. So he's using what power he has and what like ability he can to help the elves, just like Jaskier is as well. So I really liked that depth that they showed with him, and that like he's not just like ignoring the whole political situation, but kind of working it to his advantage, really, to help as many people as he can while also learning. So I was like, that's nice.
I liked how they met, because if I had imagined a way for Geralt and Istredd to meet, I wouldn't have imagined that it would be like him just portaling in, and then they kind of go on this bro quest to find the broken monolith.
God, one of my favorite parts is when the Nilfgaard soldiers were like gonna like said they was like restricted, you can't go there, and he's like, but I have like permission. They're like, we don't care, like, and then Geralt just like beats them up. It's just like nice. It's like the different approaches.
So something about Istredd that maybe gives you some more insight into why he's working with Nilfgaard. This is from season 1, when Yennefer goes to talk to him and kind of like wants him back because she's lonely. He tells her that, oh, you know, people are provided for, like Nilfgaard provides for everybody. And Yennefer says a comment, I don't remember exactly what it was, but something like everyone gets an equal amount of like nothing, like they're not getting a lot. And she, a lot of throughout the season 1 and maybe even season 2, I remember there's some comments about Nilfgaard being like not having good quality stuff. So Yennefer says, you know, like you only have one type of drink and it sucks. And there's, I think, the reference to like food. So to me, it reminded me a bit of communism, where especially as though if you're talking about like cultism and fanaticism, where it's like, oh, this wonderful idea, and then it turns out, right, like communism is the biggest killer in humanity, right? We're like going to liberate everybody by killing them, which, you know, that's Fringilla and that's 𝘕𝘰𝘪𝘴. That's what they've been saying, like, oh, we come to liberate people by murdering you all. So that's what it kind of reminded me of, you know, like everybody's equal now and you all equally have nothing. I don't know if that's something that they're gonna really work with more in this season. I don't know if it was deliberate or if this just we caught on to it, but that might have also been a reason that he's okay with it, where he's kind of like seeing the one side of Nilfgaard, like the maybe the positive PR side, where they're like, okay, we'll provide a good thing for everybody.
I could definitely see that. I mean, it's like you said, it's time will tell, see how things play out, but especially that quote specifically, it definitely gives me the exact impression, like a political commentary.
Yeah, no, I enjoy like the real world parallels that you see like brought into the show, and like the things that you can apply to. Like we talked a lot about some examples in the last episode we did, so like I just enjoyed that it's like kind of a constant thread in this show, so it's cool.
Yeah. And I think also, I mean, I think everybody brings their interpretation to based on their own experience to any media that we consume. So they talk about this whole theory, right? And I don't know about you guys, but I was 100% convinced as soon as they went into that monolith and that crack, I was like, monsters are going to come out while they're there. They're for sure going to have a monster fight. But before they get to that, they have this little, oh, we're both her exes moment, where Istred's like, oh, I came to Cintra because I thought that a woman would be here. And they talk about it, and they look down, they realize this is the moment that Geralt realizes that Yennefer is still alive, because he thought she was dead up till now. So he realizes she's alive, and he's like, they have this whole thing where like, it was really cute. Yenna and Yen, they're like very territorial. And it turns out Istredd did not stop loving her, which, you know, you might have thought that he did stop because he rejected her in season 1, but no, he liked her and he still said no because he knew she was not good for him, because she's, I'm sorry to say, at least at that point, very selfish and was using him. You know, he was her, like, what's it called, rebound. You know, she was upset about Geralt, so she was willing to go back to Istredd, who I dumped like 50 years ago in a very cruel way. And so I think I was so proud of him because he really made the right choice. He knew that even if he loves her, she's not good for him.
I thought that you were gonna fight right there.
You're gonna like throw it down. Like I love, like even the part where they were like, he's like, her name, I call her Yen. He's like, I call her Yenna. It's just like they both had, they like, my nickname is the proper nickname for her. It's just funny. Just them being like, he's like, I still love her. It's like, it was just funny. Like the best way for Geralt to find out that she was alive from her ex-boyfriend.
Shooting himself in the foot for not hearing Triss out in the last episode. I kept thinking like, oh, so they're gonna be, you know, buddies by the way they're hanging out. But this whole thing, like, I'm conflicted. Like, are they gonna be buddies in the future, or does this mean that in one of the later episodes or seasons they're gonna end up I don't know, throwing it down? Magic versus sword.
I don't know, because Istredd is not pursuing a relationship with her. I think he kind of wants to be near her and see her every so often. And he just tried to help her, like he tries to help her before in episode 3 when he, you know, warns her and he, you know, tries to talk to her. I don't think he wants to be with her because he knows that she doesn't really want him in that way.
Yeah, like he could still love her. Like he's still, even if he doesn't want her romantically or anything, like they're still like he still loves her as like a friend and one of his like first like close companions and stuff, and like he knows her and like at a fundamental level. So it's just like, and he could love her romantically but realize that like that's not in the cards for him, but he'll still try to help her out anyways, which I think is pretty nice of him. Like he could just be like, she doesn't love me, no, get away from me, like she's awful, but no, that just shows a level of maturity that's nice.
Yeah, that's a good point. So now we have some drama. We're going to get to where Ciri is holding, but basically at this moment in time, Ciri screams for Geralt in wherever she is. And of course, it has an effect there. So we have a lot of stalagmite fragments, and we have monsters, of course. And Istredd asks like how it happened, and then they portal. I honestly forget if there was a battle with the monsters or not. Was there? Do you guys remember?
I think the monsters just left, and they're heading to Ciri. I never know how to pronounce the hideout where all the witches live.
Oh, 𝘴𝘵𝘠𝘪𝘵.
𝘴𝘵𝘠𝘪𝘵, yeah. I think it broke out and it flew away to �𝘵𝘠𝘪𝘵.
Thanks.
I think Geralt may draw his sword out or something, but it pieces out before he gets a chance to do anything.
Yeah, so at this point he portals into Ciri, and then his timeline merges with hers. So we'll get to that when we get to Ciri's. And just the last bit that we end off with Istredd is that he starts looking up the royal bloodline, because basically they're trying to figure out what's the deal with Ciri and her magic powers. And he looks up the bloodline and he's like, oh, there's, why does it end here? And basically it ends at this person, Queen Fiona, or I don't know if exactly ends is the right term, but it's like a little weird over there. There's something missing in that section. So
there's no more history before it.
I looked at it and I was like getting confused, and I was like, yeah, I don't have time for this. Just move on.
I think it's like, I don't know, I can't remember how many generations that is, but let's say like between 3 to 4 to 5 generations above Ciri, they don't know what the bloodline is, or like earlier than that.
Right. Yeah, I think you're right. I think it shows the bloodline from the dad, but then Fiona doesn't have parents, I think. Anyway, whatever. I could screenshot it, but like, whatever. All right. So Ciri and Fiona is, by the way, the name that she used to disguise herself when she was with Dara. She first called herself Fiona, and a couple other places she called herself Fiona. So she either knew that she had an ancestor Fiona and used it, or unknowingly used it, which is even more like telepathic or something. Okay, so now let's talk about Ciri and what Ciri is doing in this episode. So we start off with her practicing, right? She's really working hard to be a witcher. She has this, or whatever, to be well trained and to be, capable of fighting people. And we see that Vesemir, since he had this whole discussion with Triss, he wants to make new witchers. And so let's talk about Vesemir a bit. One of the biggest things for me when I watched The Nightmare of the Wolf was like, oh my goodness, how do they put these children through this? This is like just murder, just plain old murder. And forget the part where they inject them and most of them die. Like the part, okay, spoilers ahead for people, the scene where they send the kids out to the forest to battle a monster. I was just like, you're just sending them out to die. Like they cannot defend themselves.
I've only seen the first third of that movie, and I did see that, and I thought the same thing. It was so brutal.
Yes,
it was. I mean, how many made it back? Was it like 3 of them out of? Was it just?
I think it was just Vesemir.
I remember there were like 3 kids in the bed when he got back. So I don't know if they were also there, but he was the only one of his group that made it for sure. And it means that dozens of the witchers in training rather, didn't make it.
Yeah, it's an incredibly cruel process, right? But it's kind of like I don't know if I could justify it, but I can see like they serve a purpose, like they are like helpful, and like people don't like get it, and like this is just what they have to do, or like what they had done to produce witches before. Who knows if Vesemir will change it now that he could potentially have access to like the mutagen now. It's like Ciri really, really wanted to become a witcher, and he like, this is like later down, obviously we'll talk about it, how Ciri is like, I want to become a witcher, use it on me first. And so like maybe it will be more of a consent thing, but also it's like, how can you have like a child be like, yeah, I'm willing to do this, like knowing that it could kill them and stuff. So like, yeah, it's rough.
I mean, I can see Vesemir's perspective. Like I said, I've only seen a third of that show. I don't know where it ends up, or third of the anime rather. So, but one thing I noticed when they first introduced all the witchers, it's like they're all like, they look to be in, I don't know, their 20s, 30s, with the exception of Vesemir, who's the only older witcher, and there are no young witchers.
Mm.
So from his perspective, I imagine he feels like those are his brothers or his children even, and they're all gonna go extinct.
Yeah, so like the movie kind of ends with 𝘴𝘵𝘠 going on, like being attacked, and basically all of the witches dying, and he's the only one. And then he just got the kids who just passed the mutagen test, and you meet baby Geralt at the end too. And it's like like a handful of boys basically that he has with him. And because of the attack, like all the mutagen and stuff was destroyed. That's basically how it ends. Spoilers, but
And that's kind
yeah.
of what they allude to in this episode too.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
And like even how he reacts to, I forget the guy who died, the tree thing in like episode 2 or 3.
𝘴𝘵𝘠.
𝘴𝘵𝘠. Yeah, like the way that he reacts, it's like those are like his sons. He mourns them very deeply, but also I think he sees them as part of his culture, and like he can see that his culture is slowly dying because there's only like what 20 witches left, I think is what they said at the beginning of the 2nd episode. So like it must be very hard for him to see not only like these boys that he's raised for like maybe like the witches live long time, so maybe like 100 years maybe they've been together, and then you see as well like his way of life, his culture, like his what he sees as a very like needed thing in society slowly dying. So his desperation is death,
personally,
like,
is what it sounds like.
Yeah, he did. I don't know. I mean, honestly, I guess this is where The Witcher excels in creating circumstances that are morally ambiguous, because I understand Vesemir, but I mean, okay, with Ciri, let's say, right? Basically, let's talk about her. She wants to be a Witcher. You know, Triss is like, no, don't do it until she wants to. And then Vesemir gives her a little history. He's like, mages weaponized monsters 3 years ago. And she wants to do it because, and she quotes, she says, I've destroyed so many things, let me heal for once. And she really walks around with this guilt about, you know, everything that she's done, and she feels responsible for a lot of death. So she wants to be hopeful. So I don't know. I mean, it's tough. I don't feel like I know what to say. Like, I know I wouldn't do it. I feel like too bad, too sad, girl. Like, no. But I understand Vesemir. I don't know. It's very uncomfortable.
I feel like as the watcher, like the person watching the episode, it's like, Ciri, don't do it. You don't know what it means. But at the same time, like from her perspective, losing Cintra, running, I mean, her whole first season, with the exception of the first few episodes, has to do with her running away and everybody trying to catch her. And this season also has to deal with, it seems like everybody and their mother wants to catch her for X reason. And so I understand her perspective.
You know, she doesn't want to, like, she thinks that by becoming a witcher, she could be strong like Geralt and therefore not have to be afraid anymore. Like, she feels like if she were to become a witcher, she would be able to face like 𝘰𝘰𝘪 perhaps and maybe beat him. And then that way she won't be stuck feeling that despair and this anger all the time anymore. And she also thinks that becoming a witcher will help her feel nothing. But as we know, witches still feel everything. Like they said that in the last episode too. Witches are not like completely devoid of emotion. Like they just like to think they are, but they're not.
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm going to give Ciri a little slack, but like to I think to us as the audience, it's pretty obvious that witchers have emotions. I think Ciri is employing a bit of wishful thinking here. So, but yeah. So anyway,
the teenager going through their emo phase.
Yeah, that's for sure, right? Like,
yeah. Well, you know, too, that I think the ironic thing is obviously we don't know what all Ciri can do, but it honestly seems like Ciri already has, I mean, strength and will, in that she's able to do all these Witcher stunt courses, but also this mystical power that we don't really know what is yet, with the exception of monolith destruction.
Yeah, and she doesn't know either. I think she feels very out of control. And probably for her becoming a witcher would help her regain that. But anyway, before she does that, Triss, who thankfully is the voice of reason, is like, let's see if we can find out more about you without you being a witcher. And, you know, she's like, what would Geralt say? Which, by the way, like, talk about parental permission. You know, I mean, she's, I know, you know, the concept of like, you know, signing off the form if you're like under 18. doesn't necessarily apply, but like, you really should not do this without Geralt, just saying. So Triss does say that, you know, she's like, what about Geralt? And, you know, Ciri's like, I'm sick of being lost. I'm sick of being lied to. I want to know the truth. So she's like, okay, you know, there's another way to do that. There's something called Dol Druza, which means Valley of the Soul. And, you know, you just have to trust me, and I'm going to do my like magic thing and get inside your head. So of course we do that, and we have this really interesting vision. So it's kind of like goes backwards in time. We first see some nice scenes with Lamb Chop and the Witchers, some very nice like family kind of scenes. And we see Dara, who, you know, just kind of yells at her, "We bring death wherever you are," which is another thing she really feels guilty about. We see the sash, her grandmother getting the sash that she has. We see Cahir, who she's very frightened of. She like really has this visceral reaction to him, which I actually was surprised. I thought she would have more anger, but because she's toughened up a lot, she still has this really strong fear reaction to him.
Trauma. I mean, it seems that was like one of this one of those scenes that keeps playing back.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
No, you go ahead.
You know, I kind of took it as like, this is like her most like subconscious like level, and like, so even though she says like, I want to fight him, I like whatever, but like subconsciously she is still terrified of him. So this really shows like her true feelings for a lot of things as well, like deep within her psyche. At least that's what I interpreted it as.
Yeah.
You know, I'm curious now, because now that Cahir has some kind of relationship with Yen to some extent, and I think we know at some point Yen and Geralt and Ciri are going to be like this family unit. I wonder how that will play out when Cahir encounters Ciri again as like their daughter, and if that will make him stop, give him pause, make him reconsider, especially now given what happened at the end of the season. But okay.
Yeah, that's a great point. And you know, even vice versa, like how would Ciri think of Cahir knowing that they have this, he had this kind of friendship established with Yennefer?
Yeah, actually, I wonder if they'll talk about it. Yeah, okay, season 3, awesome. So, and she sees herself also playing knucklebones with the boys, and then she sees her mother, Pavetta, but Pavetta can see them. And this is the first time that Triss is like, wait, something's off. She's like, this is not how it's supposed to work. And they continue, and Lamb Chop and Cohen at this point call her, they're like, oh, you've had enough, come back. Which is kind of interesting. It's like, is that, like, what's that? What do you think that means?
You know, the only thing I could think of that they're calling her is Pavetta, since that's Ciri's parent, would also have the elder blood. So if this is something related to do with the elder blood, which is the thing they keep going on about in the episode, maybe, I don't know, either some form of communication, or it's just that thing inside her that's calling her to go deeper, to find out more.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's something to do with the elder blood, and Pavetta can do that. Like, she has that connection. It's funny because like we know that her grandmother, like, I don't know if we ever saw any magic from her grandmother. We only really saw it from Pavetta in season 1. So and we don't even see the grandmother in this vision. So it's funny that like when we see Pavetta is like one of the only ones who can like see her and perceive her there. So yeah, I think it's something to do with like the elder blood and like lineage and magic and that whole thing.
Yeah. So I think like them calling her back, I don't know if it's like her unconscious saying like, let's not explore your past further, like go back to your reality, go back to the Witcher home, and like, you know, don't find out more about who you are. But they do proceed, and then they see Pavetta and Duny with her as a little baby. And basically they're like, they found something out, and Duny's like, Duny or Pavetta says they'll kill her if they know. And, you know, even if they think they know, and they'll kill her based on what they think is the reality. So Duny is like, okay, let's sleep on the boat at night. And, you know, Ciri's like, oh, that's the boat that killed my parents. I actually thought that when they were saying that to each other, you know, the younger Duny and Pavetta, I thought they were going to take her with them, because if she's the one who's in danger, because, you know, the prophecy, why wouldn't they like take her away from the people who are endangering her? Instead, they leave. Like, I was very surprised that they didn't take her. What do you think happened? And do you think that's related to the whole like plot with the reveal that we have at the end, which I don't want to spoil yet because I'm trying to keep it within the episode. What do you think? Like, why didn't they take her?
That kind of confused me too, because I was like, okay, they went on a boat and died, and now we find out that they wanted to take her with them, but then we know that she can't have been on the boat. Also, I was confused because it's like, did they die when she was really that small? Like, I thought that she was a bit older when they died because she can still recognize them and stuff. Because like, okay, maybe there's portraits and stuff, but still, I don't know how accurate they are. But she can tell that those are her parents, right? So it's like, I don't know.
That's a good point. I literally didn't think about it. I guess it'll just have to be portraits if they left when she was that little.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't remember what they say in the context of the episode, but I do get the impression, and just knowing how it plays out, they're in a location and they're trying to go back home, is what I believe, and that's how they die on the ship back. I don't know why they don't bring Ciri with them, but maybe it's left ambiguous so that we can find out later.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe she got rescued. If maybe she was on the boat and she was rescued.
Yeah, I feel maybe they could have had her like say something. It's like, they went on the boat alone. Why are they talking about taking me with them? Like maybe they could have had something like that to like clarify it more. That it's like, but I don't know. There must be some reason for it.
Hopefully.
Hopefully
it's not just a plot hole. I think there's a big reason behind it. It's too big of an implication for it not to be something that it'll be a big reveal.
We'll have faith. So again, Pavetta sees her and Triss pulls her away, and then they start seeing on the ground these fanewood flowers. And now they see this desolated landscape, and they see this elven woman by a tree, and everything's like burnt to the ground. Nothing's alive. And this elven woman is sitting with a baby, and the baby's crying, and she's kind of like talking to it. And she is telling the baby, I'm going to tell you the story of the elven warrior who was created to kill the human invader that she fell in love with. So this is the story of the fall of the elders that Nibelung told her. And it seems like she's the elven warrior, fell in love with the human mage. And it seems that when she says, I think we were created, it seems as though I think the baby was created, or she was created to destroy humanity. And when Triss tries to heal the wound, then we get this like wonderful spooky moment. The elf woman tries to choke Triss, and she gives this prophecy. She says, "Child of elder blood, the time of contempt is nigh. The world will die amid frost and be born of the new sun, reborn of elder blood, of the seed that has been sown and the seed that will burst into flames." So it took me a while, by the way. I didn't get this on first watching, second watching, and thank you, internet. But Ciri is the intent of the prophecy. So Ciri is this weapon that is going to destroy everything, burst into flame, make the world reborn, etc., etc. So yes, basically, Ciri. So one thing I was surprised at, Ciri doesn't really try to help Triss when she's being choked. Then the last thing they do is they see the wild hunt. She calls for Geralt, and that's where Geralt hears her back there, and she opens the thingy. The medallion tree shakes, and when they wake up, Triss is like completely shocked, completely frightened. She's like, "You will destroy us all, and we can't do anything to stop it." And she just like treats her like a pariah. I was kind of shocked at that reaction because I thought Triss was maybe a little more level-headed and more kind to not do that to her. Like she was, clearly had a relationship with her and she wanted to be nice to her. So I was very surprised that she would like really throw her out into the world like that and like just say, "No, I can't. Like you're now persona non grata."
But that kind of just shows like how crazy hearing that prophecy and what they saw is. So like we know like that just shows like Triss is a very level-headed, kind person, and that just shows like how crazy that vision was, because it just kind of showed literally the end of days, and Triss knows what it means, like she hearing that prophecy. So like it freaks her out, obviously. So it just shows how a big a deal it is that Ciri is this like doomsday bomb, basically.
Yeah, I mean, Triss is always in every scene is the level-headed, kind-hearted person. And the fact that she loses it like that at Ciri, the person that she's so far just shown to care for, and, it also says a lot that mages keep being set up as being like so high tier in their knowledge, their powers, and Triss being somebody who's gone through all that training and is a very established mage, goes and does this thing that seems like a simple procedure on Ciri to go into her mind, and Ciri kind of takes over, or at least her whatever is inside her takes over this whole journey.
Mm. Yeah, another thing I guess I had to remind myself was that in their world, prophecies are like really, really significant. Like if I had a vision and I saw that, I would just think, okay, it was a vision, it was a dream, and I would literally disregard it. Like, that's it. Maybe it's this my subconscious talking, but I would never take it seriously because I don't believe in like prophecies and stuff like that. So, but in their world, the prophecy is a big thing. So that's also another thing. Like, I don't, I believe very strongly in free choice, right? So if somebody tells me destiny, I'm like, no, I choose my destiny. Like I will choose whether I'll be a destroyer of the world. Thank you very much. Like, I don't care if this prophecy says I will be. Like, if I don't want to be, I won't be. But that's not the world that they live in. Destiny and prophecies are very, very, very serious.
Yeah, and something that I noticed, going through this and thinking about it, there was so much commentary this episode about how all these beings were created by, well, I guess by mages, or all these beings were created to be monsters, to be weapons. Because they say, I think Vesemir says that mages created monsters on the continent to kill the elves, maybe? And then the witchers were created to kill the monsters. And then the elder blood, the prophecy is that Ciri the monster was created to kill the humans. The other thing is they say that the time of contempt I believe is hatred. Is what that means, right?
Well, it's like,
so I mean, it's really like the hatred of all these beings being turned into weapons. That's the prophecy that I guess will destroy the world.
Oh, that would be a nice twist at the end, if like the thing that would solve it would be like everyone loving each other. I mean, there's a bit of that, later on, but I mean, I am a big sucker for that because ultimately,
honestly, that would be the great twist. Also, a fun fact: "Time of Contempt" is the name of, I think, the 4th book. But I don't know if that's a quote straight from the books or if that's a reference to the books. I can't remember. It could be either.
Nice.
Yeah. So anyway, very chilling moment. Big thing, big reveal. Ciri is a weapon, basically. And yeah, I'm curious how it'll play out. Like, how are you a weapon if you don't want to be? And if you don't plan on being? But Ciri does. It kind of emphasizes, and this is what happens next, right? Ciri reacts to that by just running straight to Vesemir and trying to control her destiny because she feels, again, completely out of control. Like, she just heard that she's going to destroy everybody and she doesn't want to. She wants to, obviously be like a tool for good. So, and now the fact that she was just pushed away Triss, who she trusted and who she respected, I can understand why she's so desperate to become a witcher. I don't think it's the right choice. I think it's like an unclear mind, like doing something dangerous that may or may not work. And like, how will you being a witcher necessarily be helpful? But I can understand her muddled thinking where she's just under a lot of pressure and guilt. And this is what she sees as her way out or her way to fix things. So yeah, so she comes to Vesemir. She wants to be the witcher now. He, straps her down, and it's like this dramatic moment. You're like, will it happen? Will it happen? Because it's like right.
I was nervous.
Yeah. Did you think it would happen?
Honestly, with how close they got, I was like, I guess we're going there. I mean, it would be cool. Don't get me wrong, but honestly, I was happy that Geralt showed up to stop. Right in time.
I like I said, I played the game, The Witcher 3, for like 5 hours and I knew that like there was stuff with Ciri in it and that she had trained and stuff. So I was like, wait, does she actually become a witcher? Like I was actually like, do they actually do this? Does she become a witcher? Like, but then no. So I was very like on the edge of my seat for that scene.
Yeah, I figured that Geralt would come in last minute, solely for the drama. You know, I figured they would want that. So he does. He comes in and he's like, "What are you doing?" And you know, she gives him his whole speech. She's like, I want to be like you." Which, when you hear that as a parent, it's like so flattering. It's like, oh, I have two kids. My kids are 10 and 9, and I've never heard them say that yet. But there's hope. So what she wants to be like him. I think hopefully there was an element of I want to be like you because you're like awesome and you save people's lives. But what she says afterwards is, I want to be indifferent to the past, to the lies, to the things that I've done. And Geralt tells her, that's not how it goes. Like, we can't forget or kill feelings, but your best chance is to kill the hatred. It's such a nice line. I love wholesome messages like that.
I love that too. And I mean, it really, she's basically saying, I want to be a monster like you. And Geralt's like, no, I'm not a monster, and you just need to let go of that hatred, which kind of seems to be a running theme between all these like weaponized creatures. They're born out of hatred, and the Witcher is the one person that is the voice of reason through all this, at least right now.
Oh, he's such a good guy. Yeah, and he's a good dad. I know he probably feels like he's out of his depth, but he's doing a good job.
That's true.
I don't know about you, but I'm really appreciating the amount of media where it's like the best adopted dad for the baby that he never really wanted but will protect with his life. I love The Mandalorian. I love The Last of Us. So the Witcher is just like, yes, give me my reluctant but devoted fathers to their small children.
You know, that I never noticed that trope, but you're right. It is a good one. I have my baby Yoda. Oh, I didn't bring the baby Yoda mug today.
Oof.
Maybe
Yeah,
next
you should,
time.
I guess.
It's funny. So now let's talk about the Yen and Jaskier story. So we have our lovely mage Rience. Very creepy scene. It starts off with just like, it's beautifully creepy, eerie, and we see this guy in a prison cell snapping his fingers, and this woman coming and telling him basically that 𝘕𝘪𝘵 is dead, and he's in prison because he did something to cross 𝘕𝘪𝘵. We don't know what. I'm a little curious how he's alive. Like, does he not need to eat? Because like Cintra's been sacked, and it seems like everybody forgot about him. So who was feeding him? I don't know, but whatever. So
like this was maybe like timeline mumbo jumbo stuff where it's probably relatively close to the fall of Cintra that happened, because he was able to get out and be in the town like in the future or whatever. So I think that was just like something that had happened relatively close to when Cintra fell.
Okay.
I got the impression that he was in like a mage prison because she was a mage that was coming down to see him, but I could have totally misread that.
I don't know. It was a very funny line. There are a lot of good liners here. One-liners. She goes to him. She's like, "Mage of all talent, to this way, it's criminal." Which is funny because he is a criminal. So I thought it was a very cute line.
And the fact that he's using fire magic, which we saw like Yen used once, and she lost all her power, and this guy is just wielding it like nothing. Which that immediately gets us like, who is this guy?
Wasn't it that in the first season when they were up against Nilfgaard, Fringilla was having the people sacrifice themselves to create one fireball, and it kind of showed like fire magic is I mean, it seems like it either saps your life or it saps your magic, and he's just like, snap. I just wonder what that even means. Like, where does it come from, and how did he get the ability to control that? Considering all other mages at this point can't use it.
He tells Jaskier later, and I guess we get to say it now, but he tells him that fire magic has to come from somewhere, and either it takes your life or it takes your soul. So he's been selling his soul to get this fire magic. And yes, he clearly doesn't have any. So basically this woman, Lydia, mage, wants him to find Ciri. And he's like, I don't want to be Nilfgaard's like little pet. And she's like, well, luckily my boss is not Nilfgaard. So we don't know who she's working for yet. I don't think we find that at all in the season, unless I'm missing something.
No, we don't.
Yes, but it's not Nilfgaard. So we see him later. And then what I thought was funny, I thought it was a good killing two birds with one stone. We see him at the Bard's performance. So it's kind of like rewinding history, that original performance that Yen saw. So they got to show that he was present, and he heard him talking about, oh, Geralt and whatever, Geralt abandoned me. And they also give us a chance to see the song again. I think they're trying to drum it into our heads. It's like, this is the song. We want you to know the song.
I love the bar maid or whatever. She's just like, shut up. Like, I can't remember exactly what she says, but it's just really funny how she's just like, I'm tired of this. I like, it was just really funny.
Yeah, she wishes she was deaf, which
she was deaf.
Yeah. I actually, whatever. I'm basically very deaf right now. So when I heard that, I was like, I don't wish you were deaf. Anyway.
Yeah, I like the song.
Yeah.
I do
was
as
the
well.
third
I
time.
mean, toss a coin to which is still the best one, but like it's still fun.
Yeah. So he's there, and what's it called? We see kind of like the last bit of him, what was happening on the boat. We see the elf, the unfortunate elf, I think Balial, being strung up, so did not have a good ending. And we weren't sure if Yennefer went to go get him, like when we heard him yell and the loot like being destroyed. It looks like she went back to the boat, but turns out no, Yennefer made the right choice. She actually wanted to go help him. So now we have this like torture scene. Jaskier is bound up in the chair, and Rience is being very, very creepy and trying to get information out of him about Geralt, because Geralt will hopefully lead to the child surprise, which is what he's trying to get to. And he's like, his dialogue is hilarious, because he has to be like, if this is about your wife or your mistress or your niece, I had nothing to do with it. It wasn't me. It's like, maybe stop philandering so much, but okay. And there's like, if you're a fan, the subject of my work is like, I don't discuss them, it's fictitious or whatever, something like that, which is very modern. It's like a joke about like a modern like celebrity stalking. And also like it has like legal terms, like he's using that, like, indemnification, which obviously was not a thing back then, but it's cute. So now we kind of switch back and forth between like Yen and Jaskier. So while Jaskier is being tortured, we see Yen trying to find him, and she asks a prostitute for help to go to prison. And there's also a very colorful, really cute lines there. She thinks that she wants her, to do like lesbian sex for, she wants to hire her, but no, she just wants her to find Jaskier. So the prostitute goes to look for him, and something else that happens while Yennefer is waiting is, I thought it was actually a really good buildup for letting us know why Yennefer is so desperate for her magic back. She sees an elf girl being ripped away from her mother, and she tries to help, but she can't because she has no power. So it's just like the show is doing a really good job, I thought, of constantly honing in on like Yen is really powerless without her magic. And powerless even to do
that makes me sad. That's like the third, fourth time that it's like, here's the situation that could have been resolved if she had her magic. And that time especially, what a horrific thing to see right in front of your eyes. At this point, I remember I was just feeling like, I keep wishing that it's just like a phase and that it's just going to come back randomly, but apparently not.
Yeah, same. I was just really hoping that like something would happen, or something that would let that child go, but it didn't. And it's just like, it's also a moment that shows that Yen is not as selfish as people give her credit for. Like she, well, even in the last episode when she tried to go and help that elf who got pulled in by that this tentacle monster thing. Like she tried to like jump in and help them without thinking about herself. She wanted to help that girl without like with her magic, but then she couldn't. And it's just like you see a lot more of like Yen putting herself out there, trying to be selfless, which I appreciate.
Makes her a lot more likable. Not everybody likes Yen, and her behavior last season was, I admit, not very likable, but she's really redeemed, in my opinion, for much of this season. Not all of the season, but much of it.
I mean, it definitely is way more selfless than, I can't remember what she ends up doing. She ends up like magicking a town, to it, like taking over it, and then trying to find this the genie, the djinn. But I mean, she's just such a different character, and I really enjoyed that.
Yeah. And making all the townspeople have like an orgy in front of her because she's bored.
That's right. That's what it was.
Whatever. I did not like that scene, but okay. I thought it was kind of just I thought it was like put in to be shocking, but it wasn't really shocking.
Provocative.
Yeah.
Yes.
I don't know. I think it was like a lot of people use sex as like a cheap trick to get your attention, and I didn't think it was.
Hey, for one thing, that I didn't notice that as much this season.
Yeah. Yes. 100%. No sex scenes. Yay. Sorry. I'm a big prude when it comes to these things. So I was very happy that nobody had to get undressed. So awesome. So oh yeah, except for that, the scene with at the Kaer in the beginning. So okay, one was not so bad. So basically, Baba Yaga again, while she's trying to think about like, I try to help this girl. Hold on a second. So while she's trying to help this elf girl, Baba Yaga again is coming into her mind, and trying to say, all you have to do is just call me and I can get it back for you. But she again says no. And then the prostitute comes back. She's like, oh, Jaskier's not there, but check your taverns because that's where I always find my men when I lose them. And then we get back to Jaskier, and he is again being tortured. And I will say something that I thought about while he was being tortured was he was being very expressive, like he was vocalizing a lot. And he was like, doing all these groaning and moaning. It's a little uncomfortable to watch, but I also thought that like it was realistic because maybe somebody like Geralt can withstand torture without vocalizing and while being stoic, but most people wouldn't. So Jaskier certainly doesn't seem to be like a particularly strong guy in that sense. So it makes sense for him to be that way, Anyway, so he tries to tell him that he doesn't know anything about Geralt, he doesn't know where he is. And I thought it was hilarious because he's like, while he's being tortured, he's like, I am brilliant. He grunts and I invent this whole story. I'm like, Lord, you just can't stop praising yourself no matter what's happening.
I love how like subtly arrogant he is. Just like always in conversation. But you gotta love it.
He's the best and I love him.
Yeah.
Yes, I was realizing like through all the webtoons that I read also, I always love this like over the top dramatic goofy character is always my favorite, and Jaskier definitely fits right in. I love people with a high sense of confidence. I'm a little like that, like I praise myself all the time, so it reminds me a little bit of myself and I think it's hilarious. So luckily for Jaskier, Yennefer has indeed found him in the tavern where the prostitute told her to go look, and she comes in and she pretends to be drunk, and the bard immediately catches on. He's like, oh, this is my wife and she's not involved. So kudos to Jaskier for being a quick study. And Yen just like acts drunk, and it's this really cool dialogue with Rience. He's like, oh, go away. And then I love this final stunt she did where she doesn't have magic, but she still has her wits. She puts alcohol in her mouth and he lights up his fire fingers and whoosh, she blows the fire into his face. Yes.
I love that.
That was hands down one of my favorite moments all season. Especially because it's like she's been so powerless every single time. And this time she did something and she like really did some damage.
Good. Yeah, it's funny because I thought like I was surprised that he was so affected by it. I was like, haven't you, after all these years of being like a fire mage, wouldn't you have like developed some kind of like protection for yourself? Like I would imagine that you you figured out how to like make sure you don't get burnt, but guess not. So yeah, so they hightail it out of there. Geralt tells her, he's like, oh, you should warn Geralt that this guy Rience is after him. And she's like, no. No, she's too bitter. She's like, she wouldn't even entertain the thought of like warning him. She was like, oh, okay. Not surprised, but you know, whatever. It was a good reminder to us that she's still quite butthurt over his and her relationship.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So now they split up because I think people are after her. I forgot exactly why, but I think because people are pursuing her, so he tries to get people to pursue him. And then basically she gets trapped by the prostitute again. She's like, oh, come here. And then she's like, oh, sorry, a girl's got to eat. She trapped her because she wanted the prize money. And these soldiers are there and they want to execute her. Perhaps not immediately, but that's what's happening is, you know, they're trying to take her and she's like really, really, really desperate because honestly, like her life is on the line at this point. And she finally does it. She says the words and she's like, hut hut, motherless of forest, whatever. And she's in the stream or whatever, this vision of Baba Yaga. And Baba Yaga tells her, all you have to do to get your magic back is, and then she turns into Ciri. And she's like, you have to steal me, you have to deliver me to the shattered black door outside of Cintra, and then you'll get your power back.
Yeah.
That hurt me when I saw that. It made me so sad.
And like we know how desperate Yennefer is. like she when she wants something done, she will go and get it done. It's just like, oh no, that means she's gonna run into Geralt, and then she's gonna be like, oh, Geralt, and still be like in love with him, obviously, but then he meets Ciri, who's like his child surprise daughter, and she's like, but she will still probably, like, you know, we know Yennefer so well, it's like, oh, she's probably gonna betray them.
When I saw this scene, I still thought she was going to say no. I did not know until the next episode. Like, I thought she was like, no, but I was wrong.
She doesn't know who Ciri is. She just sees this girl's face. She's like, yeah.
And I gotta say, she didn't commit to selling her soul or selling whatever the Baba Yaga wanted until she was literally faced with like death or Baba Yaga. So I give credit to her to that degree.
Yeah.
It kind of shows like how much how humanized or how selfless she's become throughout the arc of this season, and I guess the end of last season.
I wonder if she was also deluding herself. She's like, well, no harm is going to come to this girl. I'm just going to deliver her somewhere. I mean, like, I'm sure Baba Yaga will take good care of her.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I have a lot more thoughts on that, but whatever, they're relevant in future episodes when more stuff happens. But I definitely wasn't all happy about this.
Yeah, it shocked me. It made me so sad. But you know, I guess in the context of Yennefer at this point doesn't know who Ciri is, not as treacherous. I don't know.
Yeah, like she's just like, it's just a random kid. It's not gonna matter. Like I just have to put her this place. Like probably nothing will happen. Like I'll get my magic back. Who knows? Maybe I could like help the kid when I get my magic back, and it'll be all good. Like,
yeah, I mean, people certainly are capable of convincing themselves, of making themselves feel better to prevent cognitive dissonance.
That's true. Yeah, validating themselves in whatever the way they can.
Yep. Well, overall thoughts on the episode. I don't know, what was your favorite? Well, you guys already said your favorite moment. So,
I mean, the fire and burning in the face of the alcohol was awesome, but also just we're going through the episode again and thinking about the whole idea of like these monsters were created because this group of people hated this other group. This group of monsters was created because this group of people hated this other group. This monster was created to protect this group from these other monsters. And it's like in this whole theme of pretty much everybody hates each other. And the one solution they're offering so far is like, just get rid of your hatred. and just move on. And I'm
that
interested to see
cycle.
how that plays out.
Mhm. Yeah, no, it's definitely good to tie it into like larger themes of morality and justice. I mean, like,
Right.
to me, those are like obviously the most significant and impactful themes that humans can, come up with, can consume, can discuss. So when you center your show around those lines, it's meaningful.
Thank you so much to my current patrons: Susie, Lady Libris, Lily, Jenny, Haley, Molly, Veronica, Emily, Joe, Rochelle, Saucy, Cuggles, Meg, Anne Rose, Priya, Alexa, Misty, Joanne, Patty, Imelda, Esther, I'm Watching You People, Taurus, Poppy Seed, Marie, Emily, Jane, Judd, Erin, Kay, Lily, Beckett, Miranda, Christine, Sadie, Kelly, Danielle, Teresa, Mrs. Nostalgia, and Kaylee. Your support is truly appreciated.